Just a real basic quick rundown on this duct pipe for the twin turbo Subaru Legacy B4. So the air starts here. This hose is located underneath the inlet manifold. So we'll start with the hose itself. This hose is used to connect the air coming in from the pod filter into the turbos. Each sort of mouth of the turbo, we've got a vacuum and we've got a intercooler exchange. And this has got a silicone join and a vacuum for the intercooler. And we've got the same over here, except this is a hardened plastic with a flex join, because there's a hidden bolt underneath this one for the inlet manifold. And the only way to get to that bolt is to use this flex join and lift it up and get the bolt. And then there's a main supply at the rear underneath the intercooler. That one, and that cracks because it gets pressed up against the intercooler bracket. These tabs here are for the wiring harness. And the wiring harness runs underneath, and basically the harness comes out here and it gets plugged into the alternator, power steering, all that stuff, and it runs underneath and then it goes up that way. So yeah, wish me luck on the hose change, guys. Understanding the intercooler vacuum lines on the twin turbo EJ206 in the Subaru Legacy B4. We'll start here with these three that come out here. So the top right hand one on the solenoid box takes you to the diaphragm. The top left one, and goes to the far right hand side of the bottom of the intercooler. And then the one on the bottom that goes to the far left hand side. The middle one, it goes from the middle down to the firewall, and it runs along there into a, I don't know, like a vacuum pressure solenoid box, back out this one, and then it runs down underneath into the F pipe. This one and this one are exactly the same, so it goes from the intercooler into that box and then into this. I don't know why they couldn't put that box here, so it just goes like that, but that's how they did it. I've managed to get the intercooler off. This is the main sort of solenoid box, so all of the vacuum lines go into this. These are the main three that have been replaced. I've labelled them as well. These are all intercooler. And then this one here is for the boost gauge. And then this one goes onto the intercooler as well. But this one goes to the F pipe. We have a look at what the F pipe does. It works with the hose that I'm going to change. You can see why they call it an F pipe, because it sort of goes up, side and down. Stick along for the ride, guys. I've got to change what's underneath this inlet manifold. That hose right there, that flex join. Wish me luck. So I've just taken off the sort of crank ventilation pipe. That's out of the way. Main things, I just took off all the fuel lines which go to the manifold. I've taken out the vacuum lines, so these two come in from the fender box around the front of the car, and they come out here. One of them goes like this. This one goes into the diaphragm for this turbo, and this one goes into the turbo down there. And then the second one is this assortment here. It goes down into the turbo duct pipe, which is what I'm going to be changing. Tees off, runs along here to the inlet manifold, and this goes onto the blow-off valve, which is on the intercooler. So that can go away. Next I'm going to pop off the hose clamps for that turbo and that turbo, and then there's the coolant line coming off the manifold for this turbo. I've taken off the F pipe, which is this piece here, which sits like that. This one goes into the duct pipe, which is down there on the right, and then that one goes into the turbo. That's on the first assortment of this one. There's lots of vacuum hose here. And then the coolant line, so coolant reservoir here, runs down, tees off into this turbo, and then this goes directly underneath there for the other turbo. So that's the coolant lines done. Just gotta pop this off, and then I think I'm gonna take this box out to take this cover for the fuel rail off, because there's a hidden bolt for the inlet manifold underneath the fuel rail. This morning I've been focusing on getting the coolant reservoir, sort of like little expansion thingy, tank thingy, off, which I've done, so that's off there, with our Menke radiator cap and all the rest of it. This was the bracket, and this encased the fuel injectors. Just to sort of see what we're looking at, I've degreased the block down. The injectors, the fuel injectors, are actually attached to the rail. So that means I've only just got to lift it up and move this loom out of the way. This loom here, in a nutshell, basically it just goes underneath here, does the 2 injectors, does the 2 leads, and then comes up and plugs into this one, which was mounted on the vacuum solenoid box. So I'm going to go ahead label these 2 and unplug them, but being very careful to label it all as I go. So we've got our injectors front and back, and our ignition leads are also labelled front and back. So that just frees me up some more room to pull this up. I actually have a feeling that these injectors have been changed. STI pink maybe? More spray. I'm pretty sure that these ones are different from factory. This whole build's been really good. Like, everything's come off really, really nicely. Except for one bolt. This is an oil line for the turbo, and this bolt is for this bracket, which I'm trying to get off, and like this hard line is just in the way of this nut, and I gotta pull it down at the same time. And that's the hard line for the turbo, and it goes from the banjo bolt behind the camshaft pulley actually, down there. Even if you wanted to get that off, you got to get like a spanner on the end of that, or take the thing off. But yeah, that's probably the only thing. It's just that bolt there. The whole rest of the whole piece is ready to come off. It's just that one nut, so I've got to like push that down at the same time. But yeah, apart from that, everything else is going pretty good. Got this loom out of the way, so yeah. Yeah, boys! To the depths of the motor. Yes, boy! The claw! Would you look at that? Would you just look at it? All the inlet manifold bolts are officially removed. So this loom here is basically just that side there. I made room to access all of the bolts. The first thing I did, so I popped it off the mouth of the turbo, flexed it up so that I could access this hidden bolt here. But after WD-40ing them, basically the whole inlet manifold is loose, ready to come off, but there's some more hoses here that are connected to it, so I'll have to come back to that another day. Really, really, really bad. Look at how crusty that is. That's all just shit. And do you know what I do with shit? Clean the fuck out of it. So, vacuum line here, which does the fuel pressure reg. This one, it needs to be replaced because it is rock hard. Let's put some more oil on the car. There's literally mosquitoes like everywhere. I've just slid this harness to the side, which does a ground here, and it plugs into the idle air. There's a hardline T-piece here, bottom right hand side of the throttle body. This one, this is a big one. This is the big mofo. Okay guys, so I have discovered the issue. I'm very certain of it. And I noticed this cover and I'm like, oh, someone's put an insulation cover over it. And then boom, right there. The bastard snapped, right? So I grabbed the end of it, like this. Notice it's rock hard, and it just snapped straight off. Clean snap off. And then if you have a look on the inside, someone has done a dodgy with some electrical tape, and it snapped clean. You flip it upside down, oil all over it. Fuck that off. And this cover to try and cover the problem, rather than fixing it in the first place. Because this thing is so hard to work on. So I've also noticed down under here, if you have a close look at some of this shit, something is really badly kinked and something snapped off as well. So, and there's some more pipe work down there as well, which is just it's all related. I might have to get that whole piece replaced. If you guys have the same problem with your B4, it's very hard to get this part. It's the PCV crankcase ventilation, and it just adapts from the crankcase breather to the PCV, And if you need to get it, it's most likely genuine from Japan, unless you got something that you can use to mock it up. It's just a plastic adapter which runs 2 ports, and you can use your own oil hose, I guess. But I just wanted to get it all genuine. But yeah, it ended up costing a bit from Japan, and it was about a 4-week wait. So if you guys break it, or if it's cracked or perished over time, try and replace it with a nice brass one. It will last longer. I wish I had done that now, thinking about it. Yeah, right, so let's see what we find when we uncover the truth. Okay, so I've almost got it off, eh? I can basically lift the whole side up and I can see underneath. Okay, so I've gotten the inlet manifold to this stage now. Good old trusty wedge there. Ah, there's the top of the motor. Yeah, I got skills. Oh, what you gonna do about it? Fucking twin turbo, baby. Turbo 1, turbo 2. That one looks like it's in better shape than the other one. That's got single fins, and this one's got, I believe, twin fins on it. So it's got like extra. So yep, the inlet manifold is out, and the hose that goes underneath it's out as well. So this is the whole loom here, which I've gotten like oil and degreaser all in the connectors, and like I want to take all of that apart and I want to re-wrap it so it looks nice and clean, and it'll clean up underneath here as well. I'll unplug all of those and I'll pull the loom back and deal with the rest of that later. That's another day. Now, and don't forget to cover your inlet ports, because you don't want to rebuild on turbos in the engine, and don't forget to cover your turbos too. Also, I forgot to mention that the hood scoop lets all the water in if the car is outside. Don't leave the harness where I left it, because I got some of the connectors wet. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll have a part 2 up shortly. I'm just editing it now, and part 2 is going to be a lot cooler than this one, a little bit less complicated and less involved, but a little bit more fun stuff happening. I won't spoil it now, but stay tuned for it's coming out soon. I hope you enjoyed the video. As always, don't forget to, if you want to, leave a like. And yeah, take it easy, and see you in the next video. Sweet.